Sweet the whispers in your ear whenever ember wanders near.
Then put out a video. He put it out yesterday. That's why I wanted to watch it yesterday. Is he actually put it out yesterday? But we ran out of time, so we're gonna watch it now. So he basically has a response to the statement by the police chief. So, and as I understand it, he's basically going to go through and just debunk the crap out of the police chief's entire statement. So let's go through it all and see what he has to say.
The American Fork Police Department has responded to the video I made about them.
I am the Chief of Police for the American Fork Police Department. I'd like to address the members of our American Fork and Cedar Hills community.
By the way, can I ask a question? Which PR team thought it was a good idea to have a bright fucking white background and have one of the whitest guys in the country standing in front of this brilliantly white background, and with white fucking lights shining directly on his face, so he practically disappears into his backdrop? Which PR guys came up with this genius fucking idea?
Regarding some videos currently circulating on social media.
So now I will offer a response to their response. There's a lot of new information in this response that I've been wanting to get for a long time, so we'll go over that first. One of the main questions in my video was, why did I get swatted for stealing the Legos when this wasn't a mystery to the police officers and they knew that I didn't steal the Legos, that Josh stole the Legos.
He basically stole a $200,000 collection of Star Wars Legos.
But still, why did they raid my house for stealing the Legos when...
Which, as we know, I don't know if he's going to bring this up, because according to the police chief's bullshit statement, supposedly the owner of the Airbnb, who is claiming that they were spying on Ben and his people that were in the Airbnb, and basically made a bullshit statement claiming that they stole Legos and lied. And the police, because they were corrupt, said, cool, we can put this in a warrant and have our crooked judge sign off on it, and that will let us go and harass and injure Ben. Which, by the way, I neglected to call this out yesterday during the police chief's BS statement. The police chief was trying to say, oh, the radiograph that Ben showed in his video when they got swatted, and that one officer wrenched his arm, and then he popped an X-ray on the screen of his shoulder, and the police chief was saying like, oh, that there was an L on there, so it wasn't even the side of his body that the police officer took hold of. That was a stock footage. I was so wrapped up in everything yesterday, and I neglected to mention this part. The X-ray Ben put on the screen in his video when he was talking about getting his shoulder dislocated by that cop, that wasn't his own X-ray. Is Ben going to talk about it? Okay, Ben's going to talk about it. Yeah, that was literally just a stock photo that he threw up on there to demonstrate the area of the body that the cop was wrenching. That's it. So, like, the police chief probably thought that, like, ha, got him, when he looked like a complete idiot.
There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that Josh stole the Legos. When I requested the body cam footage of this to try to...
Okay, and by the way, the quote unquote, this is one I'm going to push back on him on his response. Just like I pushed back on his other videos, this is not me just going, oh, I'm going after the cops only and this guy is a saint. No, I'm going to push back on him on this just like I did yesterday. There's not overwhelming evidence that Josh stole the Legos. What he's using as quote unquote overwhelming evidence is he told the police officer that Josh stole the guy's Legos. That was it. He never presented, he was never given the opportunity to present any of the law enforcement video evidence of his investigation, the audio of Josh where he's saying that he stole the Legos. there was none of that. Literally, the only quote unquote evidence that he gave the American Fork Police Department was he verbally told them that Josh stole the Legos. And sorry, that's not overwhelming evidence. That is about the same level of evidence as what the American Fork Police Department used to facilitate the fraudulent warrant signed by the corrupt judge. It's the same thing. So I'm gonna that evidence that Ben is talking about here. Sorry, no, it's not. It's really not.
Overwhelming amount of evidence that Josh stole the Legos. When I requested the body cam footage of this to try to find the answers myself, they redacted everything, and they claimed it was to protect the victims. However, one of my friends set up a GoPro as we were getting swatted, and we caught the entire conversation on camera.
Included in the warrant are Legos.
For 3 months, the police department's answer has been, this redaction is important because it protects Josh, the victim of this case.
And by the way, all of these redactions to the body cam footage, there is a question of legality now. That the fact that they are doing all of these redactions, that it's another march in the corruption table of this police department operating illegally and up being corrupt. Because there is no justifiable reason to redact. I'm not entirely sure about Utah state law, but pretty sure that what they redacted out of the body cam footage is very likely illegal. And again, what can be done about this? Well, we need federal agencies. We need DOJ and we need like the FBI to drop down on American Fork like a ton of fucking bricks. They need to bring the fucking hammer down on them, flood the town, and do an investigation. They absolutely need, the DOJ needs to initiate an investigation because clearly, at minimum, this police department and its courts are very corrupt. Including like this judge, include the judge, because I've been seeing more and more stuff, and I don't know the validity of this, so you take this with a grain of salt. They're supposedly, like what you guys were saying about that judge, that basically a judge made it possible so that a child, I think it was a child sex offender, couldn't be retried or something like that. He made like this judge that signed this warrant against Ben. Like there was a case in front of him about a child sex offender or something, and I can't remember if like they dropped the case or something, and the judge basically made it so it was dropped with prejudice, which means that the prosecution could not recharge this person with this offense. He basically protected a child predator. From what I have been seeing. Now, I have not verified this myself, so I don't know how true this is, but there's been a great deal of people that have been mentioning this on various forms of social media.
However, we can clearly see that the police are looking for Legos and they saw no Legos. And they redacted this because they were embarrassed that they made such a stupid decision to swat the wrong person. They were so embarrassed of swatting my house.
No. I'm pushing back on Ben. They were not embarrassed that they were swatting the wrong person. They knew precisely who they were going after. But they were doing it for a completely different reason. The Legos was just another insult to injury. It was basically to get that in the door. Because they were already planning on arresting him. They were planning on arresting him for stalking. And they came up with this, and this is where the screwed up part is. They wrote up a search warrant for stolen Legos, but they arrested him for stalking. You see how this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So throwing the Legos thing on there was, I think, like insult to injury. It was not a mistake. This was intentional because the American Fork Police Department is in bed with Josh and Brad from Bricks and Minifix. They're all fucking corrupt. They're all taking care of one another. Chances are Josh and Brad are making massive levels of donations to the police department. So they basically bought the police department, or at least maybe Bricks and Minifigs has made massive contributions to the police department, and thus they bought themselves a law enforcement agency. And that's what this really boils down to.
For stealing the Legos, that in all of the police reports, it is completely redacted. The police department wants this information hidden so bad that they're willing to break the law to hide this from everyone. The only reason I know about it is because of the receipt I got the night I was released from jail and my friend's GoPro that was recording. So even though I've been asking them for 3 months why I got swatted, they finally came up with an answer, which is the Airbnb host told them that I stole the Legos.
During contact with the Airbnb owner, the owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos. Specifically, officers wrote in the search warrant affidavit, the homeowner also disclosed that he could hear multiple individuals inside the residence speaking about possibly stolen Lego toys.
And here's the problem. Here is where obviously it's a lie. Okay, I know you're shocked. It's a lie. Here's where it's going to fall apart in court. If the homeowner of the Airbnb had cameras in the home and was recording, why didn't the homeowner turn over recordings of those supposed statements about stealing those Legos? How come the police did not get a recording of that to submit as evidence for their warrant? They literally just went by word of mouth when the police chief just said the homeowner overheard them talking about that on the cameras. So where's the recordings of this? Where's the recordings of these cameras? Because if the homeowner recorded them on camera making these statements, the homeowner could easily save the footage, transfer it to a drive, hand it over to the police, and then the police could have that footage and verbal statements to utilize as evidence against Bet and his people. Invasion of privacy, not necessarily. With this being an Airbnb, it could be in the contract that this Airbnb has cameras, and that it's stated in the contract that you understand that there are cameras, maybe not like in the bedrooms or the bathroom, but in the common areas, that there are cameras present, and that may be in the if there were even cameras. Like, I'm not even sure this Airbnb homeowner that the police chief is mentioning here even exists. Like, that very well could just be another flat out fucking lie. So, take the fact that he's claiming that officers talked to the owner of the Airbnb. Take that with a grain of salt, because I think that's probably a lie too. Audio recording is usually prohibited by Airbnb. Usually or always? Because usually is not always. There's never been mention of cameras in the Airbnb. The whole thing seems to just be hearsay. Oh, I don't even think it's hearsay. I think it's a flat out lie. I think the police department made up this Airbnb owner to basically just write down a false statement to present to the judge to say, oh, look, they admitted to having stolen stuff. The owner of the Airbnb heard it. And then the corrupt judge went, good enough for me, and signed off on it. Yeah, basically. So my sources, I made it the fuck up. Exactly.
Had taken. Based on that information, officers added a request within the search warrant affidavit seeking authorization to also search for and seize possible stolen property, including Lego merchandise. 4th District Judge Roger W. Griffin reviewed and approved the search warrant.
I always like giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I will take the police officer's word on this, but something...
Why? Why? I would not. I would not take the police officer's word. They've already proven themselves to be erroneous, be extremely corrupt. They've already proven, they've already showcased this. And again, I laid out within 5 minutes exactly how this doesn't work. All it took me is 5 minutes, and I showcased why none of this works and why it's all a fucking lie. So no, don't take these police officers at their word, because clearly their intent is to try and store you.
fishy is going on here, and everything can just be cleared up if you unredact the audio and let everyone see the truth. Also, after we got raided and the police officers found no Legos, all of this footage has been redacted too. And my guess is if the police unredact this footage, we will find out the answers once and for all. While we were getting swatted,
Which all of that could be obtained through discovery. See, unfortunately, what's gonna be required here is a court case. He's gonna have to go in front of a judge with a lawyer, and like he could do this for his criminal case too. He still has these criminal charges. This is kind of defined by, do they know who swatted him? The police are just like basically Josh and or Brad, the people from Bricks and Minigames, probably just said, I want you to arrest him. I don't care how you do it. And the police just probably came up with it on their own. That's my guess. Well, no, he did a FOIA request. He got the footage via a FOIA request. That's how he got the redacted video footage. Because there's sections of the video where the audio has been removed. So I think he already did do a FOIA request, and they gave him redacted shit. However, by law, they have to maintain the unredacted video footage for probably at minimum 10 or 20 years. So basically, what he needs to do is when he goes to court for his charges, he needs a fucking lawyer, and his lawyer needs to do discovery and get every scrap of that video footage. Because by law, they would have to provide him through discovery in court the complete and unredacted video footage. And if they can't, if they said, oh well, the only copy we have is redacted, then I'm reasonably sure that violates law. That violates state and or federal law of maintaining the unedited video footage for probably about 10 to 20 years. But so he, by law, he should be able to get the completely unredacted video footage through his attorney through discovery. And then not only will he have that for his court case where it can prove his innocence, but then he can publish it online because he's obtained it legally through discovery. And if they can't give it to him, then basically his attorney can easily go, Your Honor, they've tampered with evidence. If they cannot provide the unredacted video footage through discovery in court, then his attorney can easily just go, Your Honor, we can't get a fair trial. They've destroyed the evidence. I demand a mistrial. And a judge will, they fucked with the evidence. Mistrial. Boom. Done.
One of the police officers decided to injure me for absolutely no reason. He claims it's because I was trying to make a fast movement.
Don't move like that. You understand me? Don't move like that. Don't move quick. Everybody just chill.
But when we replay the footage, you can clearly see I was not making any fast movements.
Yep.
However, the police
That'd
department
be police
has
brutality.
an answer to this.
During Snyder's detention, Lieutenant Adamson took hold of Snyder's right arm. Lieutenant Adamson later reported that he felt Snyder tense his arm, at which point Adamson moved Snyder's right arm behind his back to place him into custody.
That was moving. That was not, and I called this out. That wasn't moving his arm behind his back. He put him in a literal arm bar. That's so shock of shocks.
So that was a fucking lie.
I know, you're shocked.
Has made it clear I did not, in fact, make any quick movements like the police officer claims I did. So the police officer was lying, but not fully, because I did tense my arm. However, he lunges at me extremely fast before he even touches me. So how could he even know that I was tensing my arm before he even grabs me? That doesn't make any sense. There's only
Basically, okay. Arm bar is not the correct term. It's like an arm bar or wrist lock. It's basically hyperextending the arm to full length, and then he probably tweaked his wrist to basically lock it into place. So if Ben tried to move, he would experience a significant amount of pain in his wrist and his arm. So arm bar is basically where you hyperextend and lock the arm in place in a fully extended motion, so that if you move it, it hurts like hell.
one solution. This police officer has psychic powers, and he could tell that my arm was tensing up before grabbing me. However, this makes no sense, because if the police officer did truly have psychic powers, he would have known that we were not the thieves, Josh and Brandon were the thieves. So
And now
this
we're in
can't
semantics.
be the case either. I'm trying to have an open mind with these different possibilities of what this could be, but
body cams are a great advancement in society if a corrupt police department does not redact the audio from them. That's the thing. The body cams are great. Body cams are a fantastic equalizer these days for people that make fraudulent claims against police departments and to actually catch bad cops either abusing their authority, abusing use of force, or just flat out corrupt. They are. Except when the entire police force is in on it and they actually they edit and redact footage to basically hide their crimes. Then, well, we're back to square one.
Only outcome left is that this police officer injured me for no reason. However, the police have another response to this of why I must be lying.
In the X-ray image displayed by Mr. Snyder in that video, a small L is visible in the upper right-hand corner of the X-ray. The L indicates...
This is how you know this guy has no fucking clue about social media. This guy is such a fucking boomer. He's like, there was an X-ray, there was a picture of an X-ray in the video, and it has an L. That stands for the left side of the body. Checkmate, my guy. Well, no, it's not that this guy's a doctor. It's he doesn't realize that YouTubers, when they edit footage, they may sometimes put in stock footage instead of to basically represent what they're talking about. Which is what Ben did. Ben's gonna say this shortly. He popped in a stock X-ray footage to just show the shoulder to indicate the area of the body that the officer was tweaking the fuck out of. So, yeah, he basically just, this was just, he face planted.
The image is that of the left shoulder. The video shows Lieutenant Adamson handling Schneider's right arm during the arrest.
Yes, the stock footage I used to show what a dislocated shoulder is, an image that's clearly not mine because I didn't go to the hospital, I went to jail, so how could I have taken this picture? But anyways, the stock image I used is of a left shoulder when my shoulder that got injured was my right shoulder. When I was editing this, I like to think highly of my audience that they would have known that this was a stock image and I wouldn't have to spoon feed every tiny detail to my audience. But now I realize that there's another portion of my audience called the American Fork Police Department that maybe I do have to spoon feed every single piece of information to. So I'm going to use this as constructive.
By the way, someone on Twitter pointed this out. On their basically their symbol here for their police department. What the fuck does enforce with equity mean? That's what this phrase is right here. Enforce with equity. What the hell does that even mean? How do you enforce with equity? That doesn't make any sense. And yes, this is the actual forks. This is the actual American fork badge or symbol or whatever. And they have enforce with equity. seal of the police department, not seal of the city, but seal of the police department.
Criticism, and in every single episode going forward now that I know that the American Fork Police Department's watching, I will be forced to spoon feed every single detail. As a professional slackliner, dislocating my shoulder is almost a monthly thing for me.
The whole weight of my arm is just on this bone.
Boon.
3 days before I got arrested, I had a really bad ski accident where I had a really bad dislocation of my shoulder, and any movement at all would have dislocated it. So I will say here, I don't think that the police officer was purposely trying to injure me. I think to a normal person, this would have been fine. But for me in particular, this was not good, but it was still unjustified. And the police officer was just making up an excuse, and now they're making up an excuse to defend it. Another thing I find shocking is the chief of police, even after reviewing the data.
Yes, this event happened in American Fork, Utah. Yes, it did.
Dash cam footage says that we ran a stop sign.
Richardson initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle for failing to stop before the stop line at a stop sign and failing to stop completely at that stop sign.
The chief of police looked at this video and said, "We ran a stop sign."
Again, he's going to say he did, but what he did is, this is where he stopped. Okay, I talked about this in the video yesterday. This, from a legal, technical standpoint, it's an improper stop, and I will explain why. Now, bearing in mind, when I say this, 99.99% of police officers would not fucking care about this. Okay, bear this in mind when I talk about this. In every traffic, no, it wasn't even a rolling stop. He did stop. He did come to a complete stop. Here's where it is. In every traffic law throughout the entire country, the verbiage in the law is that when you stop at a stop sign, you either need to stop at the white line, the companion white line on the pavement, or in absence of said white line, you need to stop with your front bumper in line with the stop sign itself. That is on the books. That is on the traffic law books of literally every city, every state in the country. So technically by law, he did not do a proper stop because he came to a complete stop forward of the stop sign. Now, bearing in mind, again, 99.99% of police officers would not have an issue with this. They would not. What they did here, and this has happened before, is that because he did not follow the letter of the law in terms of stopping this, it now gives the police officer probable cause to initiate a traffic stop in order to facilitate an investigation for something more. Police officers commonly do this. They will take a tiny, insignificant traffic law violation, not properly stopping at a stop sign, license plate light is out, something dangling from their rearview mirror, which will classify as obstructed driver's vision, stuff that like normally police officers don't care about. They don't even look twice at it. But if they're suspicious of a vehicle and want to stop the vehicle so they can initiate an investigation, they can use these piddly ass little traffic laws that are on the books to initiate the traffic stop and therefore gain access to the individual so they can conduct an investigation. So by the letter of the law, yes, he did commit a traffic infraction. He did. He's going to say, oh, but we stopped. No, and again, it's a bullshit stop. It is a bullshit stop, and obviously it was done so they could have a legal reason to pull him over. But he did actually violate the law. Now, here's another question. Did he receive a ticket for that? That's a question that I have, because this was the stop where they got searched for 3 hours. So my question is, did they receive a traffic citation for the stop sign? Because that was never made clear either in the police chief video or Ben's video if they receive a traffic citation for it. I'm guessing not.
And now he's using that to say, this was a legal traffic stop. The police officers did nothing wrong. At this point, we thought...
And in this very, very specific case, the police chief was right. This is probably the only part of the entirety. This was the first... I thought this was also... No, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm mixing up my timelines. I'm sorry. Yeah, this was the first stop when they were first by Josh's house. And basically they trespassed him. You're right. I'm mixing up my timelines. My mistake. No, this is when they first were going to go talk to Josh. They parked away from him. And then Josh called the police. The police showed up his house. They were leaving. And that's when they pulled him over. They basically said, they basically looked in the window, looked back at him without asking who he was and say, "You Ben? How you liking Utah?" So yeah, but again, out of everything that the police have done with Ben, this was probably the only thing that they actually did justifiably and legally. The initiation of the traffic stop by the letter of the law was justified. And that's it. Everything else around, before, after, and surrounding it was blatant corruption and illegal. This one thing was legal.
But the best thing to do was to take Josh to court so he can be legally accountable for the crimes he committed. However, to do that, we are first required to serve him court papers. So we did what the law told us to do. I got a process server, and we went to his house to do this the legal way. However, Josh did not want to do this the legal way, and instead called the police on us.
Joshua Johnson contacted police and reported he was going to shoot someone.
And I overlooked that part yesterday. I overlooked that statement. That this police chief just made a statement, public statement, that Joshua called the police and gave the utterance of, "I'm going to shoot someone." And there was no investigation to that. Like, Ben was just sitting in his car, not doing it, just sitting there. And Josh calls the police and immediately dials it to 11 by saying, "I'm going to shoot someone." So the corrupt police, of course, don't investigate Josh and his utterance of that he's going to harm someone, and just go talk to the kid with the court papers that he's trying to serve. Yeah, the guy making the threats of violence with a firearm is the one that gets protected. Shocking, right?
As a result of the ongoing harassment, multiple officers immediately responded to the area.
Josh was so scared of going to court that he would rather shoot us than accept these court papers. Josh's logic here is that if he can murder the process server and if he can murder me, then he can get away with his crimes because there'll be no one to sue him in court. However, sadly for Josh, murder is illegal. And now he just admitted his plans to the police officers. The American Fork Police should...
And by the way, the police chief just provided Ben a mountain of fucking evidence for both his criminal and any pending civil case. And maybe he's going to talk about the end of this video, but I'm guessing there are a fuckload of attorneys that have already reached out to him en masse saying, "We will represent you for fucking free." I can't, I don't even want to think of how many attorneys have said, we're taking your case pro bono. We will happily take your case pro bono, because this is going to be brilliant fucking exposure for this lawyer where he can take down an entire police department.
At least be arresting Josh for trying to use murder as a way to get out of court. But sadly, for some reason, they arrested me instead.
Am I being arrested? You're under arrest right now. Really?
Something about this seems off, and all of the answers are in the body cam footage. However, they redacted all the body cam footage. So this is where I think if we all come together as a community, we can somehow convince the American Fork Police Department to unredact this footage so we can find out why they arrested me and not the guy who threatened to murder me.
It's called discovery.
The American Fork Police does not...
This is all going to get done in court. There's no coming together as a community. There's no doing that. This is either going to come out through discovery in court, or federal law enforcement and the Department of Justice is going to descend upon the American Fork Police Department with warrants and basically start grabbing everything and investigating the entire police department and the court system for corruption. That's how this works out. There's no kumbaya coming together as a community. This is gonna get worked out in federal court.
I want to unredact the footage right now, and now have made up a new excuse of why I was the one justified being arrested.
Officer Sumbot contacted the Marion County Circuit Court in Oregon to verify the legitimacy of the paperwork. The court confirmed that the case was indeed legitimate, but that papers had already been served.
That's a fucking lie. We actually we've actually seen the body cam footage of that phone call. The only thing that the Oregon County Clerk, whatever district circuit court that was that he called, All she said is it's an active case. The officer said, okay, and ended the phone call. At no point did that clerk say the papers had been served. At no point. So
that was a fucking lie.
And no hearing date had yet been scheduled.
The police department said the reason they arrested me and not Josh this day is because they called to confirm if this was a real court case, and they said it was real. However, the papers have already been served, and now I'm doing this solely to get YouTube content. And if that's true, I would like to see footage of it. They released all the raw footage, and that part doesn't seem to be in the raw footage.
It's already been to court, or are you allowed to tell me kind of where they're at with the case?
There is no hearing date set, and there hasn't been a hearing in the case yet. All I see is the claim that was filed. I don't see proof of service or anything. A hearing wouldn't be set until a response is filed by defendant.
Okay, so the defendant needs to be served with papers before the case will, I guess, start.
Yes.
Okay.
Or more appropriately,
Gotcha, bitch!
their own body cam footage that they did not redact. The clerk actually says it's on file with us. A date has not been set yet because the papers need to be served before a date can get set. Their own body camera footage literally words are hard. Contradicted what the police chief just lied about. They that was a blatant fucking lie by the police chief right there. He's just giving Ben all the evidence he needs.
Okay, thank you for your help. I think that's all for today. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, bye.
Right here, the police officer admits that it is March 10th.
On March 10th, 2026.
However, you can see here that Josh doesn't get served until 3 days later, March 13th. So how could Josh have already been served on March 10th if he didn't get served until March 13th? Unless Josh is a time traveler. There's only one way to clear this all up. American Fork Police Department, show me the time machine. So now they say that I have done all the check marks which constitute stalking. Let's go through them.
Individual commits stalking if the individual intentionally or knowingly engages in a course of conduct directed at a specific individual.
So yes, I did do an action that was targeted at a specific individual, but that's what's required by the court if I want to take someone to court. If someone steals your stuff and you go through the legal process to take them to court, it is not considered stalking. I have a right as an American.
It's unlike his first video. Unlike his first video, where theoretically it could be done for the purposes of like harassment, so to speak. Well, while I don't agree with the methodology that he did, he 100% should have contacted an attorney and had a certified letter sent. That would have cost him maybe $100 to have a lawyer do that. Be pay a lawyer $150 to do up a certified letter from a legal office saying that we're trying to to please respond. Use lawyers and the intermediary to try and work this out. Send it via certified letter. That it would be registered as being delivered. When the lawyer does not receive a phone call for this intermediary action, then you could say, okay, I made a good faith effort to contact him, and boom, you'd solve your case. He actually went to the property. It's still not illegal. The way he did it is not illegal. It was not the smart way to do it. I said this during the original React, is like the entire time, he should have gone through a lawyer to do this. But at the same time, he was not trying to, this would have not been harassment. It was, he verbally said to him, I want to work this out. In the recorded footage of him going there, he said, I want to get this worked out. So it would not be classified by the law in that respect as harassment. Could a lawyer make the case for it? Yeah, but I think the defense could easily knock that down. No, this is for Brad. If I said Josh, I'm sorry, I meant Brad. Because he got arrested for trying to serve the papers to Brad, I believe, not Josh. I think. I don't know. It's also fucking it's also confusing. I could be getting all mixed up. Regardless, it's a defense attorney would very easily be able to basically knock this charge down, saying where was the harassment? There was no intent to harass. He was basically following the court's instructions. Did he get arrested trying to serve Josh? Okay, so he got arrested trying to serve Josh. Whatever. Again, it's fucking confusing. But with especially with Josh, he never encountered Josh. He never actually spoke to Josh. So he could easily get a defense attorney could probably easily knock down this stalking charge for harassment.
To sue him
is reckless as to whether that course of conduct would cause a reasonable person to fear for the individual's own safety or the safety of another.
The second check mark is that if a reasonable person would be scared. The police are claiming that since this action made Josh scared, this check mark is complete. However, they have completely forgotten about the term reasonable. As we can see, Josh is not a reasonable person. This is
no, that doesn't work. Okay, I know what he's doing here. He doesn't get to make that call. He's basically doing it, trying to do a trial court of public opinion here by saying, well, Josh isn't reasonable, so obviously I'm fine. No, it doesn't work that way. The courts are the ones that make that decision of what would be considered quote unquote reasonable. I know what he's doing, and it's not a good plan. For this particular part of it, it's not a good plan.
Multiple times has tried to silence someone by accusing them of being on heroin.
Here's the crazy thing. They told me that they took over that location because the owners were using the location to fund their heroin addiction.
What?
Yeah, and that's how they took it over, and saying they had like a pigeon in there that was crapping all over the Legos, and it smelled bad, all this stuff.
This is someone who threatened to murder me just for trying to serve him papers. This is not a reasonable person. No. It is not reasonable to threaten to murder someone just for serving papers.
Now we see a pattern. Okay, if what that guy just told Ben is true, again, we don't know if it's true, so we have to be skeptical. That's a pattern. If they booted out the previous owner of the bricks and minifigs where all of this got started under the auspice of, oh, she was trying to use it to feed her heroin addiction or something. Remember, when they got pulled over and they got their car searched, it was because of a tip about heroin. I have to wonder. They're so, that they love using the heroin excuse so much. What are the chances that Brad and Josh are actually smuggling heroin? What if they're this is like a projection thing. They keep saying everybody else is on heroin. So what are the odds that these guys are the ones that are actually running heroin? Yeah. I mean, it's the first step of any criminal to hide their crime. You accuse everyone else of doing the crime that you're committing. That way you supposedly look like the good guy. In the meantime, you're actually the one doing that crime. But you can possibly be doing that crime because you're reporting that crime to the good guys. So how could you accuse me of doing that when I'm actually reporting the people to do it? I'm the good guy. Interesting.
A reasonable person would accept the papers.
Drug allegations are an easy excuse. The fact that they are consistently using the heroin drug allegation, that's a pattern. And when you see a pattern like that, you investigate it.
Murder someone just for serving papers. A reasonable person would accept the papers, so that second checkbox does not meet the requirements. I even tried explaining this to one of the police officers early on.
What the law says is if the average person would feel unsafe by our behaviors, so I think he's feeling unreasonably unsafe, a reasonable person would not feel unsafe in the situation. Well, I could say the same thing. I feel unsafe trying to conduct business with him, and he calls the police on me to hide. I feel unsafe because of that. Because we had a 3-hour search in our car. He said we had heroin in our car yesterday. We had 3-hour search in our car, that makes me feel unsafe. I think that's reasonable for me to feel unsafe. It's not reasonable for him to feel unsafe.
So Josh is actually the one who said he was going to murder me if I take him to court. But now, I'm the one that's being looked into for threatening to murder Josh. How does this make any sense?
Mr. Johnson alleged that Mansell had hired Benjamin Snyder to harass, stalk, vandalize the store, threaten to murder the manager of the store.
Now, let's go to the heroin claim.
Yeah.
We got pulled over by the police, and they claimed that we had heroin on us.
This officer is going to conduct the search of your person because there are illegal substances in the vehicle.
Most of this footage is redacted, so again, there's a big mystery of what happened. Can we all come together and convince the American Fork Police Department to unredact this so we can find out the truth? However, what the police is claiming now is that they did not get a call saying that we had heroin on us. Instead, they could just tell from the second we pulled over that our eyes were glossy.
I still called this out.
During the interaction, Officer Fraughton indicated he believed Shaw's eyes appeared glossy and expressed concern regarding possible impairment.
Now, yes, they did do that during the stop, but that was not the reason for the initiation. You just saw the video footage. The reason they initiated the traffic stop is they supposedly got a tip that there was heroin in the car. Which, by the way, that's not a good enough reason to pull someone over. Receiving a tip of, oh, there's bad thing in car is not enough probable cause to initiate a traffic stop and an investigation. You would actually need in terms of vehicle, you would need to have an actual crime being committed in order to justify initiating that traffic stop and then conducting your investigation into potential heroin, which again, that's hearsay, and that'll get tossed in court. If that goes to court, it gets tossed.
If we look back on the raw footage, this is what the police officer said his first interaction with us was like.
Good with these guys being able to drive?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't see anything clear as day with Tyler that I noticed.
What's the goal?
Right now? Yeah, I was gonna scare him a little bit and let him go is all I really was gonna do.
Do we have charges, or are we just tired of them being annoying?
It seems hard to take what the chief of police is saying seriously because so far almost everything he said is a lie.
Rich probably is not going to die. I don't know if Rich is going to dive into this case because there's still a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of evidence that he is not privy to. So I don't think Rich is going to throw his hat into this yet until things go to court, discovery can be made, and all of the evidence can be presented. That's my feeling. And yeah, I was just going to scare him a little bit. What are we going to do? Are we going to let him go because they're being annoying?
So the only way we can actually find out the truth is if we unredact everything. We already know the victim's name is Joshua Johnson. Why do we have to keep that protected? His name is already out there. None of these redactions are protecting anything except for the police. And now I want to acknowledge my friend Sheldon's arrest.
The group stated they were supporting a GoFundMe campaign for a dying man. One of the individuals later identified as Sheldon Norcross. Officer Richardson then decided to seize Norcross's phone, pending the approval of a search warrant, in order to preserve.
I think Rich would not like Ben. I think he would say he would not approve of the way Ben conducted himself. I don't think he would hate him. But I think Rich's disdain for a corrupt police force would override his dislike of how Ben conducted himself. That's my feeling. But again, Rich is not going to weigh in on this until he has a fuller picture. Right now, he does not have a full picture because we have obstructed evidence by the American Fork Police Department. And so until some of that can come out through discovery in court, he's not going to want to commentate on it because he doesn't like talking about police investigations or court cases without a full picture.
Potential evidence and prevent the deletion or alteration of any data. According to Officer Richardson's reports, when Norcross was informed that the phone was going to be seized, Norcross immediately began manipulating the device.
There we go.
The police officer claims that Sheldon was arrested because he opened his phone to start.
By the way, the other statement before that is they said that he was on the phone in a FaceTime call when the phone was requested of him, and the phone was actually in the guy's pockets. Or in his pocket. In Mr. Norcross. The phone was actually in Mr. Norcross's pocket when the officer requested of him. Now, granted, Norcross was stupid. He should have said, "Do you have a warrant?" "No, then you can't have my phone." That's neither here nor there at this point. But it's all fucking lie.
Start deleting evidence. However, we can clearly see in the footage, Sheldon's thumb is heading towards that lock button to lock his phone. His phone was open when he pulled it out, and the phone was transitioning from on to off, not from off to on. From this response, it almost seems like the police officers didn't even watch the video. So American Fork Police Department, if I'm your teacher, here's your homework. First off, learn the facts of what actually happened. Second off, stop lying about the facts. No one's believing it. The third thing is unredact the audio that makes the police look bad. Some of the best lawyers in the United States are reaching out to me right now, so eventually this is going to get released. Wouldn't you just like to get this over with sooner rather than dragging this out? The more we drag this out, the more content we get, so this only benefits me to drag this out. It doesn't benefit you. If you unredact the illegally redacted parts now, you'll win over audience support much faster. It's kind of funny because a lot of you guys probably think I'm like trying to like make fun of this other cop by how he was talking.
Brother, you mind turning up the volume? Holy, it's actual ASMR. Wow. I cannot really hear him. Why is he whispering?
No, I'm actually just like super sick right now. I haven't been sleeping because I'm trying to get out part 3 as fast as I can. And that's caused me just to like stay up all night, every night, and not sleep. And now I'm sick and have no voice. But yeah, I guess it kind of, I don't know why that police officer was talking with such a low, quiet voice, but that's why I am, at least. I wasn't making fun of him. I literally am just genuinely sick. But if you want to see part 3, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/recklessben. Part 3 will be up there very soon. Part 2, I'm only dealing with misdemeanors, but part 3 is when they start accusing me of felonies. So it gets insane. But yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to crank out videos in the meantime until part 3 is done. But thanks for all the support, and let's find Brian's Legos.
Bye. Hey, I can. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't wait for part 3. Oh, that's gonna be good when part 3 comes out. You will watch that when he finally gets part 3 out onto YouTube. We will absolutely watch that because, good sir, you had my interest before. Now you have my attention.